Hey everyone, it's Mr. Southerd coming at you with a video on Unit 6, Lesson 8 and Comp Sci A. And in this case, we're going to talk about how do we remove elements from an array list. So I'm going to go straight to Lesson 8, Module 6, and this is where we're going to start with debugging errors. So let's get started. Let's try Fitness app. I'm going to go ahead and clear the version history since I already went over this. And let's get going. Okay, so basically what we're trying to do here is we're trying to look at code where essentially we're adding items to an array list and then eventually we're going to remove it. We have a problem with this. So let's go ahead and run it so that we can start the debugging process. So go ahead and run it. And I see that we have an error, which it looks like we have a concurrent modification exception. We learned in class today that when that happens, that basically we're running some sort of enhanced for loop that's trying to add or remove items. So in general, you should not add or remove items within a enhanced for loop. Okay, so if we go to fitness app, I see we have the public class fitness app. There's an array list looking at the string data type called exercises that's created. And there's a constructor for it, no argument, and a couple of methods. And here we go. We have a method called complete exercise that I see that there's an enhanced for loop sitting there. Okay. And furthermore, that'd be okay normally, but look, we have the remove method embedded in the index, right? Or sorry, in the for loop, the enhanced for loop. So that is a problem. So what we're going to have to do to debug this thing, as far as I can tell, is we need to go ahead and change that enhanced for loop to a regular for loop. This is how we're going to do it. I'll go ahead and comment all of this out, okay? And we basically don't need to have the enhanced for loop here, right? So we're going to change it. There you go. That's all commented out. And then what we want to do first with anything with the regular for loop is we want to start with the int index equals 0 is where we would normally start. But let me pause for a second here. The original code said, hey, we want you to take this array list called exercises, dump it into S, and see if whatever's in that string is equal, or whatever is the value for that variable S is equal to completed exercise, right, which is what's in here. Then go ahead and remove it from the list of exercises. So what we're trying to do is whenever we're trying to remove elements, you might recall that if you don't use the decrement of index minus minus, we have some problems in terms of trying to traverse through the array and removing items. What we're normally used to doing is this int index equals 0, and then we have index less than the array list size, right? Type of thing going on. But in this case, what I want to do is, what if we could start from the back of the array list? So at the very last element. So I'm going to go ahead and set index equal to the exercise, exercises dot size, right, which will return the number of elements in there, -1. We're going to do that because we want to go ahead and make sure that we start counting from 0, right? So if there's 7 elements, my last index number is going to be 6. Let's go ahead and run index. In this case, we're going from the last element to the first element. So I want to make sure that we keep running it until we basically hit 0. And then this is the important part. Every time we do the for loop, I need to take 1 away from the index. So there you go. And here we're going to need to check. Well, we don't need to check anything because there's already the code here. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste that over. Right. So if, in this case, s dot equals complete exercise. So at first glance, it's like, where's S coming from? You might recall that S comes from this enhanced for loop, which is copying over exercises. Well, this is where you have to do one more step with the regular for loop. The enhanced for loop would do it automatically for us, which is we're going to go ahead and do the if statement. And we're going to go ahead and do, I just call it completed exercises to see if it, or at least the parameter completed exercise, sorry. We're just going to find out right away if that's equals to the array list, and we need to do that get index right there. Okay, so we're going to do that if instead of this if. And that's going to go ahead and remove the index or whatever the index value is. We're going to do the dot remove from the array list called exercises. Go ahead and run it just to make sure I'm error free. And in fact, it's already a printing happening on the tester class, and there you go. So it looks like they had that stretch was the completed exercise, and sure enough, I don't see stretch in the printed list. So that's a good thing. We go ahead and test it. We'll be done eventually. And then we're going to go ahead and move on to the next module here. And there we go. So it's completed. All right, so then for module 7, let's go ahead and do, I think I did feedback analysis in class. Maybe we should do customer service, just for fun. Trying to at least. And in this case, what we're trying to do is you'll see that all of the words are parsed out already. Thank goodness. So at first glance, I was kind of curious, like, do I have to do the substring and index of type of stuff for the space hunter? Parse out the words. Luckily, we don't have to do that. They're adding every single word of the message right there, right? I was unhappy that the shipping was slow. And then what they want to do is they want to isolate the issue words and basically focus on that. So we don't care about the filler words so much. So that's happening there. So if I go to chatbot.java for customer service, and take a look at this, what we're going to do is I'm going to scroll down. I see the constructor and everything. And here's the remove non-issue words. So in other words, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to go to this chatbot runner. I was unhappy that, right? And we basically want to focus in only on happy, unhappy, sad. So here I see the words unhappy and slow. So I know in my mind that this will be, right? In this case, it's going to show up. And so will this in the output. So we go to chatbot.java. If we scroll down a bit, we need to basically remove all the other like non-essential words, essentially. So how are we going to do that? We're going to go ahead and get that method going. And first thing I got to do is, in order to remove all the non relevant words, right, I need to go ahead and set up that array list so that I can traverse through it. Okay. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and find a way to basically traverse through the array list, right? And go fill in those elements. I'm going to do the for loop just like we did before. In this case, I'm going to start from the end of the end of the array list, and we're taking in, let's see, message words, right? So we're going to take in those message words, and we're going to go ahead and run it until we get to the end of it, right? So we're working from the back of the array list, which is going to be the array list size -1. We're going to go ahead and run that index value until we get to 0, right? And then we're going to need to work backwards, basically. So index -1. Now, basically, what I'm trying to think is I need to check if it's irrelevant words, right? Then we remove it. So I'm trying to think of the situation here. So basically, I want to make need some sort of method to identify the relevant words. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually, before I code anything, well, let's go ahead and code it because I want to show you how I would do it. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of like fake code here, pseudocode maybe. So I'm going to say, hey, if something is not relevant, right? So I'm going to write this new method that you know we can call is relevant, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to try and see, hey, if we're going to go ahead and match to see if the message words, right? Oh, it looks like it's with a capital W. Let me just check. Yep, there it is. Message words with a capital W. Sorry about that. We're going to go ahead and fill those words in by using the get index, right? And that's going to go ahead and compare, or go ahead and message words.get index will go ahead and refill all of the elements with the actual words. And then I'm going to make this this method called not is relevant, or is relevant. If I can identify those irrelevant words, then I'm going to go ahead and go to that array list called message words again, and this I'm going to remove from that index value we're stuck on. Okay, so now I'm thinking, well, and then once I'm done with that, now I can return message words, right? So basically it's been cleaned up. And you'll notice that that's the return. And I do need one more method here, which is, let's go ahead and make it. So it's going to be public. It's going to be a Boolean data type, right? Because I'm trying to see if this is true or not true. And we're going to go ahead and create that method called isRelevant, where I need to check every single word to see is that part of the identified words that we want, or is it not? I'm going to go ahead and have a parameter called string word to check. All right, so there's going to be some sort of word we need to fill in, which is going to come up in a minute. And basically, once I have that word that I'm going to check, I need to compare it against that array list that's already been made that has the relevant words. Okay, so in this case, we're going to return true, false, right? So that's happening. And what I'm going to do is, in this case, we can use the enhanced for loop, right? And I'm going to go ahead and make a string called words, and we're going to go ahead and map all of the issue words in there. Now you might be wondering, what's the issue words? So the array list where the relevant words are stored in this issue words, right? And it says right here, words related to the issues. So I want to identify those ones. So I'm going to go ahead and create, oops, it goes down there, create an enhanced for loop where we're going to map over all the issue words from the array list into a new string array list called words. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is for each of those words, we're going to go ahead and check to see if that word to check that we have, right, that parameter is going to be equal to the actual words that we have in each element. Okay, so let's go ahead and write that. So check if the parameter equals the actual issue words. If that's the case, then we're going to go ahead and return true. Okay, so again, we ID the relevant words and keep them. If that's not true, then we're just going to return false. So now when I go up here, this is relevant is created. It's taking in some word we want to check. And look what this is saying. So if is relevant is not true. So if is relevant returns not true, then I want to do this thing, right? And you might be asking, well, Southerd, what's it going to take in? Well, it's whatever this is, message words.getIndex, right? So for that, for that element I'm on currently, right? Let's say it's on element number 0, index number 0. That first word is, say, the, right? So it's going to run this isRelevant method with the word the. It's going to identify that the doesn't match the words in the array list for the actual relevant words. So this is going to be, in this case, true for this if statement, and it's going to go ahead and remove the value at that index. Let's go and run this to see if it caused any problems. Looks like it's error free, which is great. That means I can go to this other chatbot runner or whatever it's called, and we're going to go ahead and call that method and print it. Remove non-issue words. And I realize I'm calling the method, but I didn't use the object, right? And since it's not a static method, I have to use an object. And is there any sort of parameter? I don't think I saw one. It remove non-issue words has no parameters, which is wonderful. So this makes it easy. So I should be able to just print this. And we get, there you go, unhappy and slow, which matches the words that I thought would show up. Go ahead and test it. And there we go. We passed it. Perfect. So I hope this helps.